G'day, legends. Welcome to the Pot Noodle and Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight is Shane. How you going, Shane?
Hey, I'm good, Jared. Good to be with you again. Just really kicking on from what was a really good weekend. A little bit of retail therapy, but caught up with some really close friends of ours on Sunday and their little ones, and it was great to see them again. So a weekend well spent.
Happy days. How you settling back into life back on this side of the planet? You got over any jet lag and everything?
Yeah, I think the jet lag's finally passed. It did take a while, and as I mentioned when I first came back, this was my first time overseas, and then coming back into Australia, so I didn't really know what to expect. But the jet lag absolutely knocked me sideways for about 2 weeks, and I think finally over it now, and everything's back to normal. I never really had a regular sleeping pattern before the jet lag, so I don't think it's been altered in any way. But feeling much more refreshed now.
Anyone in the Celtic Down Under group chat would know Shane doesn't sleep. He'll Celtic tweet something at 4 in the morning, 4:15, bang, he shared it in the group chat. It can be 11 o'clock at night. This guy doesn't sleep. So I don't know if he's a human or if he's a robot underneath or what. But yeah, I was gonna ask you that last week, but my sound quality was absolutely rubbish. So I thought I'll hold off till now.
All good.
So how was it seeing Celtic overseas?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, no, we were quite fortunate the way that it had panned out. Obviously, main reason for going over was to see Oasis at Heaton Park, and I'm extraordinarily lucky to have been able to do that. And I've still pinch myself every day it happened, but we're able to make a few alterations, which allowed us to get over to Cork and see Celtic play in the Cork Super Cup. And it was good. It was really refreshing. There was about 30,000 people there. Cork City Centre itself was alive with green and white hoops everywhere for the few days leading up to, and most certainly the day of the fixture. And it was tremendous. It felt like the whole city centre was just one big party. And because it was against Cork City, there was good rapport with both sets of supporters, and it was really easy going and interesting match. A few little tidbits. We looked like a team that was obviously just at the start of pre-season, and they were midway through their season, so you could really see that come to the fore. But it was great to be able to see that and enjoy it and experience it. I've never seen Celtic play overseas before, of course, so that was a wonderful thing to tick off the bucket list. And then about a week later, I was able to go to Paradise and did the Celtic Park tour, and the Cork Super Cup was sitting right there in the trophy cabinet as we did the tour. So kind of a little bit of a, a full circle moment in some regards. Look, being a little bit facetious, of course, but look, had an excellent time, both at the game and also at Paradise for the first time.
Fair enough. Now you're copping a little bit in the comments here where we're saying like heavy vibes is saying sleeping's for sissies. But then Square Sausage Mick has given it to you here. Poor Shane struggles to get into bed. It's too high.
That's fair. That's a fair whack. I'll take
And
that.
then Heavy Vibes is saying high step for his bed. Does he need a bunk bed?
It's a pity I didn't get to meet anybody specifically when I was over there, because it would have been funny for people to put the name and height to the myth. I think it's all true.
Oh, you gotta love it. Anyway, yeah, it's just a good laugh. We got to wind you up somehow. Yeah. So just thanks to yourself and Liam as well, and then Jared and Willie as well from me for last week on the pod when I was traveling for work. So I appreciate everyone stepping up and yeah, doing a little extra for us. Appreciate it. So I just wanted to chuck that out there now. Now we crack in. We're getting close to the 5 minute mark. So that's what I'm hanging in there for it. So we can get into the pod, drop whatever colourful we want because Aberdeen were a bunch of dirty, you know what. So what I'll do just to pad it a little bit more is if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Soak Down Under podcast on YouTube. Hit the like button, helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Refer a mate to the pod if you like what we do. And yeah, just get involved in the comments a bit later on. We're going to probably have a bit of a Q&A, so chuck a few questions in there. And yeah, they can go about anything basically and go silly. Yeah, we've got here, smell the glove. Does Shane get a ladder to eyeball Tilio?
I've got him covered. I won't accept that slander.
And then RL77, bet Shane's really about 7 foot tall.
In my dreams, absolutely.
You missed it, Shane. It was set up perfect. It was like the alley oop was thrown. All you had to do was just dunk it there, but you just missed it. I bet Shane's really about 7 foot tall. You should have said, yeah, laying down. You missed the opportunity for a big dick joke. What's going on? You're better than that. Come on.
I'm really not. I'm surprised you think I'm better than that. With all the mistakes I've made along the pod for the past couple of years, sure you know that I can miss a golden opportunity.
Anyway, we'll let everyone in the comments pile on you. I'm not going there.
All a bit of banter, and it's all taken in good spirit.
We love it. So yeah, obviously overnight we had Celtic 2, Aberdeen nil. Starting lineup for us was a bit of a interesting one. It was one change from the week before. So Schmeichel in goals, Tierney, Scales, Carter Vickers, Johnson in the back line. Middle of the park, McGregor, Hatate, Nigrin, and then up front, Idah, Maeda, and Jamesy Forrest coming from the start, Yang out. So what was your thoughts when you saw that starting lineup, Shane?
Wasn't too surprised. I think Forrest for Yang was the obvious change. Yang was terrible against St Mirren, and Forrest was good when he came on. So it made perfect sense that Yang wasn't going to get a jersey this week. The only other surprise for me, not so much in the starting 11, was the fact that we once again didn't have Inamur in the squad. And we might touch on that later, but I'm starting to get a little bit concerned by the fact that he hasn't made the first two matchday squads of the season, and definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, we'll talk about Inamura specifically straight after we finish talking about the game because that's something I definitely wanted to talk about as well because, yeah, I think it's a bit of a weird one. But we'll, because it ties into a couple of other things there. So, yeah, just for me, seeing the starting lineup made sense. The big question was when I looked at the bench, I'm like, yeah, that bench is absolute gash. It's probably the nicest way to sum it up. Like, you got Trusty McCowan, Engels, Sinisalo, who are all starting level players, let's be honest. But then you're looking at the other guys there, Shin, we don't really know too much about him at the moment. Good reports, he could be a starting level player for us as well. But then you look at it, Yang, Kenny, Ralston, Bernardo. I'm shocked with Bernardo, like what's going on with him as well. Here's another one to throw into that list there that of players I want to talk about that aren't really doing much this season. But yeah, I just think it's a bit of a weird one. Our bench is looking weak. Like, where's the game changers on the bench? That's the thing for me. It's not about names because let's throw a random go off on a little tangent here, Shane. You know we love tangents on this pod, but say if we decided, you know what, let's bring one of our old juniors back. Let's bring Ben Doak in, for instance, on loan, and put him on. And that happens if he comes in and he goes to that wing, he's going to start on the right wing, right? So even bringing him in doesn't give you a game changer on the bench. Jamesy would go to the bench. He can impact the game, but there's just nothing there. Like, if you were to bring in a left winger, someone on loan to fill that spot, to hold it down till Jota's back around Christmas time, great. It gives you someone there, but who's backing him up, that player up? I'm sick of moving Maeda, and that's something I want to talk about in the player focus a bit on Maeda as well. So we'll hold off on him, but we're playing our best striker out on the left, out of position, and then on the right, we're playing a 34-year-old Jamesy. There's the starting level wingers, winging setup isn't good enough, so there's no impact on the bench. Think back a few seasons, and this is the tangent I'm going on, Shane. We were starting Jota on the right under Ange. We were starting Maeda on the left, and we had a Barter on one side, and I can't remember who was Dazen's backup because they didn't really take the field because Dazen's a machine, right? On that left wing. But you had three quality wingers. If a Barter come off the bench, he would make an impact. If Dazen had to come off and Jota was there, Jota would go to the left, and you'd have Jota and a Barter on your wings. So we had Kyogo in the middle, and you had Giacomakis. So you had impact guys coming off the bench. We don't have that at all at the moment, and considering we've scored 3 goals this season, they've all come from the midfield so far. It's a little bit confronting.
The interesting thing when I was looking back at it today, and we already talked about the fact that Jamesy came in for Yang, right? And there's two schools of thought for this on my side of things. First of all, if Jamesy's off the bench, he can be a little bit of a game changer. But then I look at that and go, well, I love Jamesy, but should he be relied upon to be that game changer off the bench? Shouldn't we have a few more options? But then to compound that, now you're starting him. Now, I love Jamesy. I'm a big fan of him, and he's done a tremendous job for 17 seasons. And I love seeing him, and I love what he brings to the team. But if he's your starting winger, which right now he is, because I think he's ahead of Yang, if he's your starting right winger, there's a problem with our signings and our depth, in my opinion. It's not. I'm not trying to reflect poorly on Jamesy. It's reflecting poorly on the squad makeup overall. To get more specifically to your point about the game changers, I really like McCowan, and I actually would put him as a little bit of a game changer. I like what he brings when he comes on. I see a bit of a spark there that maybe I don't see in a few others. There's a couple of unknown quantities as well. Obviously, Maeda, we're not too familiar with just yet. I don't know if you can call Kenny an unknown quality anymore. I'm sure he'll come up later anyway, but you could argue that maybe he hasn't had enough time to bed down. I guess that kind of thought process around him as well. So there's a couple maybe that might excel to that level, but overall our squad depth, particularly on the wide areas up front, is really concerning at the moment.
Speaking of Jamesy, the thing for me, Shane, is okay, at his age and his experience, we shouldn't have to be relying on him. He should just be a luxury item. That's the way I look at it. He should be that guy that is your fifth string winger. That's either you have a kid in. So if you're going to have Dazen on the left, which I don't want, you want Dazen at striker. So you need to have a start. Jota is your starter. You need to have someone to fill that spot till Jota's back, right? Then you need to have someone to back up Jota, whether that's a young guy coming through or someone similar to McCowan who's happy to come in, do a job, and play a role. Then on the right, you need a starter to replace Kun. You need a backup to him, and then you have Jamesy who can cover both. So if one of those positions has an injury, like ideally, if Jota's out, we should have someone there stepping up into that spot, and then Jamesy's the backup in that position. And then when Jota comes back, Jamesy drops back to be your fifth spot and bounce between the two wings to cover him. That's how it should work. So, yeah, I just think it's a bit of an interesting one for me. It's nowhere near good enough. So anyway, we'll get into the actual game because we could waffle on here, and I think we're starting to. So when we saw the Aberdeen lineup, there's a few Aussies there.
Yeah,
There's
Milanovic and Yengi.
Milanovic and Yengi. I completely forgot Yengi went there. I think Jimmy may have recruited the wrong Yengi. What do you think?
Yeah, well, his brother's at Livy, and he seems like he's doing well. We might as well touch on Yengi. So obviously, we're an Australian-based Celtic podcast. We do keep an eye on Australian players, particularly those in the Scottish Premiership and the Scottish lower divisions. And obviously, Yengi being part of Aberdeen squad, I had a bit of a close look at him as well yesterday, and I don't think we should sugarcoat it. He was pretty poor. He was pretty awful, actually. He had two key moments that I can remember where he tried to. He sort of there was a break on and he needed to cross the ball and he tried to stop it with his studs and turn around and hit it, and then he ended up just not stopping the ball and it rolled out for a goal kick. But the other one in the second half was where he blocked probably their most promising attack. He hasn't settled in at all well, unfortunately, Yengi. And, I don't really take much joy when I say it, but when he got hooked on 55 minutes, there was a cheer from the Aberdeen fans, and that's not a great start to life up at Pittodrie. I have no skin in this game. I hope he turns it around. I really do. He's an Australian trying to find his way in the leagues over there. But right now, it's been a really rough start for him. He didn't go well at Tynecastle either, from what I understand.
So I'm going to bring up a couple of comments here. So Square Sausage Mick, first of all. Shane, your hat's on the wrong way.
It's the style, mate. I'm cool.
But back to Yengi, Smell the Glass saying the big Aussie up front for the sheep OD makes Idah look like Thierry Henry. Yeah. Now, I'm seeing people saying Scales had an absolute dog of a game, right? I'd say football-wise, yes. Passing was terrible. He was caught out of position a few times. Yes, Scales was not very good. It's probably one of his worst games I've seen him play probably in the last year, right? However, I think Scales' job was to just go out there and just physically battle Yengi. And Carter Vickers and Tierney and Johnson just cleaned the rest up. Because if you watch the game, like I went and watched back the replay and that today, and every time I look, like, what's going on here? Yes, Scales just like jostling with him and they're grabbing each other and all this sort of stuff. So those two were just giving each other cuddles and beating each other up. So I look at it from a pure football point of view and technical ability. It wasn't one of Scales' best games, but in terms of getting out there, getting in the battle and beating the crap out of, taking the physical beating from Yengi and giving it straight back to him, Scales did his job. So I give him a pass mark for that game based on that.
And if I can just pick up on that really briefly for a small tangent, that to me is why Scales is being preferred to Trusty at the moment. I sort of mentioned it last week, and you saw, and it was encapsulated in one moment in the first half where Scales and Yengi were literally wrestling each other, basically scrapping for the ball. And I just remember thinking, this is why Scales is ahead of Trusty, because that physical battle, Trusty doesn't have the best track record in. And I think Yengi might have bullied him, whereas Scales is much better suited to it. And I agree with you. I think passing wise, he really had a poor game. It's probably the poorest I've seen him for a little while. And his passing was slow, and it was sort of all the things we've criticised him for in the past. But that physical element, as you highlighted, was really important, and that's why I think he's next to Carter Vickers at the moment.
Sometimes I constantly say, and anyone who's listened to this pod for the last 6 years it's been on knows how much I say I love a centre back who just gets out there and just kicks lumps out of people and is a bit of a psycho, right? Of all our centre backs at the club, Scales is the only guy that has that bastard in him. And the fact of the matter is, whenever we play against Aberdeen, they're hammer throwers. They don't recruit many that are shorter than 6 foot. So they're a lot bigger than us. They're a lot more physical. So him getting out there and being the guy to just go, you know what? You're not going to throw me and my team around. I'm gonna sort you out. I can respect that. So yeah, it's an interesting one here. We've got some comments here. So GG's saying Scales done well. Heavy Vibes are saying Scales did more than CCV. Depends what you're looking for, but yeah, I'd agree with you there. Smell the Glove is saying Scales being put at left back when KT goes off is going to end in tears. We'll talk about that later when we get into the Inamura Trusty. That's all the one conversation. And then GG saying Hatate has way more wayward passes than Scales, yet he gets away with it. And I've got him down in my my player focus to talk about. So yeah, I think we'll just crack on. So what was your thoughts on the first half, Shane?
Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit, really, like the physicalness. You mentioned the hammer throwing element. The physicalness that they tried to exert pretty early on was very blatant, and there were a lot of fouls early. I thought, if anything, the ref probably blew up a little bit too much in both directions. I thought there was a couple of little ticky touchwood ones he could have let go, and then he missed two really obvious ones.
Can I just jump in on that? Yeah, ticky touch ones he would call. And then there was ones where guys had thrown each other to the ground, as you're saying, and he let him go, and he's like 2 foot away.
Yep.
Yeah, absolute. Like, to me, I'm looking at going, how is this guy getting a job? Like, if I was that bad at my job, I'd be fired. Anyway, back to the saying.
The two ones that stood out for me was the I can't remember which Aberdeen player it was that went in on Calmac and got him studs above the ankle. I don't even think that was a free. And then the obvious one, which was their only chance for the first half, which was the blatant handball, which broke kindly for them, and that was their only shot on target, I think, for the first half, and their actual only opportunity for the first half, and it was a blatant handball right in front of him. I couldn't believe he missed that. I think he would argue and probably say he would just let VAR step in where needed, but it was just ridiculous. Anyway, back to the first half in general. I thought it was a pretty cagey first half. The physicalness was obvious from them, and I thought they tried to disrupt us as much as possible. I don't think we really it was just cagey overall. I don't think it was not a really enjoyable first half to watch. It was really sort of combative more than anything else, and it wasn't really fluid football. There was some good moments, don't get me wrong, and we had a couple of decent opportunities, a lot of half chances that really didn't go anywhere. But the two obvious ones, I think, are the ones we actually scored from. Which was the Negrin goal. And just watching that back before we came onto the pod, I didn't really appreciate at the time just how well worked that was. So we'd obviously initially come down the right, no angle there. So we switched the point of attack. We get it across to the left. That we're really patient. I love KT. I love what he's bringing on the left at the moment, and just that move, he looks like he's going to dart inside Milanovic, and then quickly darts and goes on the outside to get to the byline. Milanovic is pulling him back, scragging him basically, and he still picks out a wonderful pass to hit Negrin. And credit to Negrin for finishing it first time, because that cross and the work that KT did deserved that goal to be finished basically. And it was a tremendous finish. And he probably should have had a brace in all honesty, because he had that opportunity break to him late on in the first half, Negrin, and he hit it on his right instead of his left. And it could have been 2-0 and all over at that point, but he skied it. But they were really the only points of main interest for the first half, to be honest. As I said, I've repeated it a couple of times, a really cagey, tight affair.
Yeah, it was a good trying to figure out good old 90s type football. That's the way I look at it. Get out there and just rough each other up, kick lumps out of each other. It wasn't anything like the modern sort of thing that first half. It was physical. We didn't really try to play forward much. It was this sideways, backwards passing, trying to draw them out and keep them out, get them out of their shape. And yeah, sometimes when you get into these sort of games, it's the old, get it in the mixer and see what happens. And yeah, as you're saying with that goal, like the thing for me is the build-up play, get it to KT. Greg Taylor was a good servant, but there's levels to this, and you can see the class that KT's got is like well and truly above. Like that turn of pace to beat a man while being pulled back and get that cross on the money like that. Jeez, how have we all missed our number 63? Ah, welcome home, KT. 100%. Love it. Yeah, we've got some comments here about Idah. Square sausage meat. Pity Idah couldn't move in the box like that. And then Heavy Vibes are saying Big Idah's just not cutting it. Like, we'll come to him a little bit later on, but I think it's not just him. I think it's our whole forward line. It's our wingers. It's our striker, all front three. It's just defensively we're solid. Midfield we're solid. It's just that front third that's just absolutely pathetic at the moment. Not good enough. So, yeah, good fun. Second half, Shane, what's your thoughts?
A little bit more fluid football from both teams, really. The game opened up a bit more in the second half. They obviously were a goal down. They had to abandon their plan of being totally physical and trying to stifle us and come out and play a little bit. And conversely, that opened up a little bit more space for our midfielders and our wingers to play with. And there was just a bit more a better tempo with the way that we were playing and our level of passing. And you started to see, we're talking about Idah really struggling. Maeda was almost anonymous in the first half. He started to get a little bit involved in the second half. He had that opportunity, which Mitov did a really good job of saving. And there was more half chances we were creating. We looked a bit more lively, particularly in the front third. Obviously, the highlight has to be the wonderful goal from Hatate. And again, watching that back today, just there's not enough superlatives to describe just how good that finish was. Really, like the cutback, he's on the edge of the penalty area, cushions it with his left, hits it with his right. It's a curling shot with his right foot trying to beat the keeper near post. It literally, from where he's taken that shot, it has to be perfect. And it is. It's a tremendous strike. It's a strike of the highest quality. Honestly, you go through a pretty awful first 45, in all honesty, in terms of football, and a slightly improved second half, but that was well worth the price of admission. That was absolutely tremendous. And from there, look, they never threatened. At no point did they ever really threaten to get back into the contest. They looked completely toothless up front. They didn't have anything to go to. It's thinking about this last night, the 2-0 scoreline probably does reflect the game in terms of the chances we had. And we've won by bigger margins at Pittodrie, but that's got to be the most controlled and somewhat toothless Aberdeen performance against us at Pittodrie for a long time.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it going, in that game, we were in first. I don't really think we got out of second gear majority of the game. Like, got through the physical battle, second half, more of the same, a bit more football played, as you said, Shane. And then, Yeah, like Rio's goal. Okay. I've got a few different comments. I'm a bit of a contradiction on how I take his goal, right? So I'm gonna say this at starting with absolute class finish. Like as you said, to go to where he was, right foot, curl it in off the crossbar into that top corner, right? And the sound off the post was just unreal. But first of all, what in the blue hell is he doing shooting for the top corner on the side the keeper's on from there? Like you get there, normally everyone shoots across the goal. So Mitov is probably one of the better keepers in the league. I'd say he's probably top three for me, in my opinion. And he was hard to beat. He was controlling his area. So that's probably part of it that's thrown him off. Because if you ever look, he was over more covering where he would have expected the shot to go across the goal and he would have had that covered. So fair finish, right? But if Rio hadn't have scored, it'd be a hell of a different story about his performance. Let's be honest. And that's where I'm got the contradiction because I don't think he played well in that game. For his standards and what we know he can do, I don't think he played that well. I would give him probably a five or 6 out of 10. It wasn't one of his decent games where he's up a 7, 8, 9 out of 10. Like that was just run of the mill Rio pass mark. That goal is what got him to that level for me. That
Yeah.
goal's made it. Like, but then at the same time, and this is where I say the contradiction is, how many times did Tom Rokic have those sort of games and then just put a goal in that sort of area that shouldn't have done that whole, mercurial sort of finish from the top of the box, and you're just like, how did he do that? And it suddenly makes his game seem like at the end of it, oh, Rio played well. Rogic went well. It was a great goal they scored. And then you look back and go, actually, so many misplaced passes, this and that. And so it's like you're picking, but that's that sort of player. Like we love those sort of maverick players at Celtic. Guys like Lubo, guys like Rogic, guys like, far out. You got Rio's one of them now. A guy like Olivier and Cham was that way, just going down the run there. Like, but the way I look at it is, there you go. As Smell the Glove says, you need
Mhm.
a risk taker, and that's exactly that. And Square Sausage Mick, you're right. Like, at least Rio looks happier, and yeah, that's something that I did like. Gets the goal, and he's like happy as a pig in shit. So it's good to, it's good.
There's a very Australian turn of phrase.
So that, and I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, you go Nakamura as well. Michael Meechan, thanks for that one. So we love that sort of player at the club, and yeah, it's just so I look at it and go, the goal from Rio was absolute top draw, and it made his performance. It makes it come out of going, oh yeah, Rio made a big difference here. So if I had a hat, it would be off right now. Tiara is off. There you go.
I, I think just to your point, and we sort of had a few comments before, and I want to touch on the comment that Smell the Glove made about the risk taker element. And there was a comment earlier about sort of Scales being loose with the ball, Hatate being loose with the ball, but Scales tends to get a bit more criticism. When you're in that more advanced midfield role and you're trying to make things happen, you need a risk taker. You need someone that's going to bite off a pass that's not conventional, that's going to try to make something happen, that's going to get defenses and defensive midfielders second guessing and having to try and cover multiple positions. Scales is under a little bit more criticism because he's often bringing the ball up and we're trying to get the ball in wide areas or get the ball quickly and he's a little too slow, or he gives it away and he gives it away at a crucial point. So I think that's what the difference is between why one gets criticized more than the other in that element. But for me, the risk take element is exactly the comment that I think sums it all up. Hatate does do these things that other players don't do. And we need that.
Heavy Vibes has nailed it here, Shane. Rio do fuck all for 89 minutes, then wins the game. Like, sort of thing. It's out there. But what you're saying, like, the thing is, yeah, you need that risk taker. We do need that in the team because a lot of our midfield, like last season, whenever Bernardo and Engels played together, they were too similar. But talking to the Hatate thing versus Scales, I knew I was going to get back to where I was going to go with that. Is that the difference is if the goalkeeper comes charging out to try and gather the ball, misses it, it ends up as a goal. If the centre back misplaces passes, suddenly, you're turning around and you're in danger, usually where it happens on the pitch. You do that in the middle of the park, well, you've got a whole defence line behind you. So you can get away with it a little bit more up the field. So it's the same play, but it's the position and the role that you're playing that makes you, you know, if people give you a hard time, like imagine missing a 2 foot pass or a 2 meter pass or something like that within, like in the 6 yard box, trying to say if Casper was trying to pass it from himself to a centre back and he misplaced it, the uproar on that. But if you're in the middle of the park and you're trying to quickly go like a 1-2 triangle sort of thing to beat someone and you misplace the first pass in that or the second pass coming out of it, swings and roundabouts, I suppose. Anyway, we go there. So player focus. Here we go. Anyone you've got? Because I've got a few ready to go lined up on the list.
Well, I know you've got a few, and you mentioned them before, so I'll try and avoid them. Hopefully, you don't have Neger on the list because I want to touch on him briefly. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. 2 big thumbs up. Yeah. I thought Negron was fantastic. I love the way he is slotted into that midfield three. He looks so comfortable on the ball. He looks comfortable in the system that we're trying to play as well. He's slotted in seamlessly. He obviously got his first goal. He picked up an assist for the Hatate goal. I thought he was fantastic. So I've been really impressed with him. He was probably man of the match for me. I'll go somewhere a little bit different, which might be a little bit not controversial, but maybe unexpected, just from some of the comments I've seen. I thought Carter Vickers in that first half was really important because as much as they didn't threaten, there were moments where they had to break on or they did win the ball back and it looked like something could come from it. And his read of the play defensively to cover and his ability to break up play, I thought in the first half in particular was really important. So I had him as actually having a really good game. And they were probably my two standouts, to be honest. And then Tierney, of course, as well. So, yeah, I really just wanted to highlight Negron and just say that I'm really enjoying what he's bringing to this midfield trio.
The thing with Negrin for me is he's a £6 million player. Let's be honest. We paid 1.7 or whatever it is, or 1.5 for him because his contract is running down. So he's the equivalent of if we were to sign someone like what we spent on Bernardo or whatever, and what we should have paid for Engels. Like, I don't know if you know that story with Engels' signing last year. Do you know that one, Shane, about what happened?
Nope.
So apparently we were in for him early on, and we were told, similar to the Idah thing, oh, let's you can get him cheaper. I think it was like 7 million or 7.5 million for him. And then we were like, oh, hold off. We'll try and, we'll get a better deal at the end of the window. And then what happened? Same thing that happened with Idah. We were holding our balls for too long, and next thing you know, you're getting dacked and, in a bit of trouble. So we had to pay overs. So, yeah, realistically, if we had gone straight up, this is the player we want. How much is he? Okay, yep, 7 million. Cool, pay it, done. We would have had him in a month earlier. So that's why I'll go. It's the same with Idah. We could have had him in for what, 5 million? We paid 9. Have a look.
I'm just enjoying some of the Australianisms you're bringing to the pod as well. Happy as a pig in shit, getting dacked,
You can tell I was in Queensland last week.
It's rubbed off on you, mate.
You love this one, Shane. I pull up to my hotel after work on the Thursday, right? Was it Thursday? Wednesday. Pulling up, I get out of the Uber, and all I hear is, "Arr!" I'm like, you're kidding me. I'm like, has to. And I look over, and like, boom, bin chicken. Gotta love it.
Oh, dear. The old bin chicken.
Yep, gotta love it. So, yeah, it's one of those things where you don't want to pay over. So it's kind of like with us back to that point was if we really wanted, what's his name? Garden, we would have paid the bloody money for him, wouldn't we? Instead of it being a 3-window saga. So, yeah, it's a bit of a interesting sort of thing there. So, yeah, I'm just looking at going back to the player focus. I have 3 players listed there. Scales, I've already spoken about with the battle, right? I had Jamesy, we've spoken about the stint from him. Maeda, this is the other one I want to talk about. First half, he was pretty, you know, could barely see the guy. Didn't look like he was involved much. And I'm going to be honest with it, with Idah. I'm not reading into this body language stuff, but I honestly think he seems a little pissed off, like, because he's not playing striker. Like, that's, if I was in his position, I've been on the wing when Kyogo was there and I work in all this sort of stuff. And then I finally get to my natural position as striker and I'm banging in goals, player of the season, all this sort of stuff. And then you have an injury, the club doesn't want to strengthen. So, yeah, just go out on the wing and we'll put Idah in up front, who's been playing like absolute shit and is so out of form and I can't play in my proper position. I don't know. He just doesn't seem very happy, Maeda, that he's having to play out on the wing.
I hadn't thought about the body language stuff really, and I must admit it hasn't struck me as much. But what has struck me is that he hasn't looked anywhere near as effective as he did last season playing through the middle.
He just looks angrier. That's what I mean. It's not the body language because he's always moving. You can't really tell, but it's just whenever they look at his face, like if a pass is misplaced, he's like scrunches his face up, which he wasn't doing last year or whatever. So Pinball saying West Ham, Tottenham, Palace, and Brentford are circling Maeda. Head is turned. That could be part of it too. GG saying that's the downside of being versatile. So yeah.
Definitely, and you know, I think Maeda, if you can look at it from both sides, and I'm going to sit on the fence pretty hard here. You can look at it from both sides. Maeda had his best season, right? Tremendous season last season, playing through the middle. The quality that he showed playing through the middle, Brendan finally put him there. He persisted with him, and he was absolutely fantastic. He went to a whole nother level. He's probably within his rights to go, I think I'm going to make the spot my own, right? I think that's a fair assumption for him to make. It is possible that if we actually had wing stocks in supply at the moment, proper wingers, that he would be playing through the middle. But we don't have that luxury. And so obviously Brendan's trying to make sure we do have quality on the left, whilst we've still got someone who can lead the line, which technically we can do in Idah. I think Maeda has every right to be frustrated with that. And I can understand his point of view. But I can also understand Brendan going, I can't really play anybody on the left if I play you through the middle as well. And again, because he's so versatile, Brendan knows that he can put him out on the left and he's going to run all day, irrespective of his body language or how he's actually feeling about being out there.
I have a question though, Shane. If you look at the makeup of our squad, why are we playing the same formation that doesn't suit the players we've got? Why aren't we playing a 3-5-2? Because if you have Maeda in the middle with Idah, that'll help Idah because he works better as a pair, you'd think. We don't have the wingers to play the current system, so that fixes that because you have wing backs. We've got 45,000 centre backs now. We've got like 7 centre backs, so you can play 3 across the back, Tierney and Johnson at wing back, have your midfield 3, and then have Idah and Maeda together in the middle, and it sorts these issues out. Like, I don't get it.
I don't think Brendan
Obviously,
likes playing without wingers. I think Brendan just loves his wingers, in all honesty. Like I remember when we used to play with the 3-5-2, but I remember Lenny doing that. I can't remember Brendan ever switching to sort of playing 2 up front. Maybe my memory's failing me.
I can tell you when he did it. Last season at Leicester when he got sacked.
Well, there you go. It's bad memories. I think obviously Brendan knows that Maeda can still deliver on the left. But it's all about now the fact that he had his breakout season, and he'd been tremendous for us before that, but he'd had his breakout season really playing through the middle and the quality that he showed leading the line, right? So you sort of, before that, it was still somewhat of a debate, really, amongst people about where his better position was. Last season and the way he played put that to bed. So now everyone knows, well, he really should be playing through the middle because that's where we got the best out of him. But Brendan's going, I don't have that luxury and I really want 2 wingers.
I'll bring up some comments here from Michael Meacham. It says, guys, get on the phone to Liam in Japan. Reports coming out of Japan that Dazen Maeda has informed Celtic of his wish to leave, apparently. Hopefully it's a load of shit. Yep, Shane's calling him. And then someone said, oh, where was this reported? And then he's like, Baz on One Celtic Fan View broke it this morning and the text last night. Sources the same as Shin to Celtic. And in heavy vibes, like if anyone wants Days and Maeda, the board will sell, and 100% they will. For me, there's nothing coming through the usual journalists. So Square Sausage Mix saying, yeah, nothing online, no journalist stories. You know what it's like in Japan. If this is true, the Japanese media will be covering it. So until we see the actual football media in Japan covering it, then I'm not really going to dive too much into, what's said on YouTube shows it because I could say something like that too. I'm not marking Baz off and bagging his show or anything like that. I'm sure he's got good contacts and everything, but I know what Liam always tells us about the way the Japanese system is. So if they're not actually reporting them talking about it in Japan, I'll have my doubts.
It would be a very seriously quick souring of the relationship between player and club if this is true and he's unhappy and wants to leave, because he's always seemed happy at Celtic. He and his family, and they've been a big part of the Celtic journey since they've come along, and they've always looked super happy, and we love seeing those shots of his family after games and so forth. It would be such a quick downturn of relationship between player and club. It'd be really sad if that's the case. So I hope it's all rumor, and I hope it's nothing serious. Of course, so people have their contacts, and we'll wait to see what comes of it. But I would just be really, really saddened if that happens so quickly like that.
And we've got Michael saying, yeah, foolish to dismiss anyone. He was spot on about Kyogo, and it was reported the same source that broke Yamada to Celtic as a done deal. Smell the glove saying we haven't replaced Kyogo and Kun yet, let alone Peter Lowball selling Maeda as well. Had to. I love that. That is a cracker. Yeah, so it's one of them for me where I just look at it and go, we'll see what happens. But yeah, with Maeda, I just think he just looks a little frustrated. And then the last one I wanted to talk about, well, we've spoken about Idah already, and I just said his form's not good enough. And yeah, it wasn't even our second best striker in the preseason. Like honestly, our best striker through the preseason was Johnny Kenny.
I'm going to defend him a little bit here. I thought he was good against St Mirren, worked very hard, but didn't take the half chances he had, which was disappointing. He was relatively anonymous yesterday, I'm not going to lie, but I also thought the way we were playing and the way the game was panning out just wasn't conducive to a big centre forward leading the line. There was no space in midfield for him to drop and get involved. The balls we were whipping in, particularly from the right, weren't that great. I didn't think he had the best opportunity to prosper. So he wasn't great, and I'm not trying to defend him too heavily, but like based off of yesterday, like I'm not too hard on him from yesterday because I just think the way the game panned out really wasn't going to suit him at all, or any centre forward. I mean, you look at Yengi up the other end. We've already spoken about him. He had a very similar ineffective game. Really, he had two moments that were really poor, but overall, he was relatively anonymous because I just don't think the game panned out well for a big centre forward to get involved that way.
But Shane Yengi didn't cost £9.5 million. I'm only saying that because I know that's what someone in the comments is going to say soon enough.
No, and it's fair, and it does come with a price tag, and with the price tag comes expectation. You're right; his preseason form has been poor, and I think he's probably under a lot of pressure now. But if we're looking at it from game to game, I thought he was really decent against Mirren. He worked really hard against a physical backline and two centre halves that were basically kicking lumps out of him. So for me, I can kind of understand it, but at the same token, I'm not going to rule him out just based off of yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at a couple of comments here. Sorry, Shane, but
Go for
GT was saying Brendan Rodgers needs two wingers, a striker, and a tie. I honestly think he forgot to pack his tie for that game. Let's be honest. They're all the way up in Aberdeen, and he's like, "Oh shit, where's my tie?" So we had to go without it.
Oh, it's too hot. It's too hot for the tie. It was a lovely day up at lovely day up at Pedodry.
Pinball saying here, where we got it? Being a solo striker against a low block is a thankless task. And yep, would agree. The thing with Idah for me, and I've said this a few times, I think the way we play doesn't suit his game. Idah is like a bigger version of Kyogo the way he wants to run. He's not a lead up target man, get the ball, lay it off. Every time we try that, he struggles. And then he gets caught up in the battle. For me, You look at him in the Champions League against Villa when he scored those 2 goals quickly, right? How was he playing? He was pressing.
Mm.
He was a big guy who was getting out there and running hard and pressing, doing 2, 3 run sprints and then falling back in a position. Shane's having a chuckle here, so,
Just the last comment about the shoelaces.
I said on Twitter they've taken British shoelaces as well. And then next week he'll be wearing a string vest. Any wrestling fans on here, he'll be rocking one of those Hardy Boys, mesh tops.
Like, I wouldn't mind seeing that. That'd be interesting.
And then Square Sausage Mick Jarrett, I'm no body language expert, but Hoopy the Huddle Hound hardly wagged his tail last week. I've got one for you. I was trying to come up with a episode name, right? Mocking the Huns for being 4 behind us already and everything, right? And I was like, what can I do? And I'm like, you know the whole thing that they did online? Would you 100 men versus gorilla who wins sort of thing? I was thinking 100 teddy bears versus Hoopy the Huddle Hound. Who wins that? Yep. Oh, I just verbalized my. Oh, I should have let the voices out.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle, mate. Once it's out, it's out.
Anyway, so here we go. Hopefully not broken Brendan Rodgers. That was him. Anyway, so yeah, man of the match. You already said it was Nigrin. Same here. Now we'll just get into a couple of other quick topics here. So Inamura, what the hell's going on there, Shane? Like for me, I think it's an absolute. I can't figure it out. Like, is he a left back? Is he a centre back? Brendan keeps saying, "Oh, I'm still trying to figure out where he's going to fit." He was unreal at left back. The fact of the matter is, Scales is starting. Then when we have to take Tierney off because Tierney was having a nice puke. There you go, there's a nice Aussie one for you. Getting a bit of a spew going on, having a yak. Keep going if you want.
Technicolor dream.
Yep, he was there and thereabouts. Someone was holding his hair back at half time, so he wasn't spewing in it. All that good stuff. So he was yeah. Anyway, back to the point. Scales going to play left back. And then you bring in Trusty in at centre back. Like, I don't get it. Like, Inamura looked great at left back. And if he's just going to come in and be an understudy and play that role where he can jump in and do that, great. If it's not going to be Inamura, we've still got Mitchell Frame at the club. Like, the perfect example would be Tierney, who came through from the academy at left back as a young kid because Izagiri got hurt. Now Tierney's that older guy. Do we put Frame beneath him to be that young guy challenging him for that spot, like what happened, sort of thing again? I don't know. I'm just finding it really, really odd at the moment.
I think you've summed it up. I don't know what to make of it either. And, I got to see Inamura at the Cork City game. And I said earlier, like we were pretty rough. It was the start of our preseason. There was no real cohesion there. It was a squad mixed of youth players and new signings and so forth. But Inamura was the standout. He seemed to fit in really well at left back. I love the way he played. I love the way he moved the ball. And throughout preseason, he looked pretty promising. And, we all knew Tierney. Tierney didn't play or hasn't played a full 90 for a while. And we knew he was playing fits and spurts in preseason. He was always going to probably start, but he was always going to come off around the 60 mark, 70-minute mark. So I've been staggered that Inamura hasn't made the matchday squad at all once yet in the first 2 weeks, and I'm a little bit concerned that he's not in Brendan's plans, despite the quality he actually showed. And the positional swaps of bringing Trusty in, obviously we talked earlier about why Scales is preferred to Trusty, but then Brendan obviously goes, I want to bring Trusty in, I want to keep him fresh where I need to, then move Scales to left back. Sure, fine for the Scottish Premiership. I don't think we'll have any major difficulties, but when we go to Europe, like that's not something that's going to be conducive to a good performance, in my opinion. That's something you want to avoid. I'm someone a bit old school. I don't like mixing up my centre half pairings. I don't like moving centre halves and having them super versatile, like halftime change or so forth or injury. But I try and if I've got a centre half pairing, I want the centre half pairing to see out the game unless there's a real problem.
I'd go one further than that. I like to have a nice diamond solid. So your six, your two centre backs, and your goalkeeper.
Hmm.
That gives you a core that you can do. You can plug and play around it at your fullbacks and your wings, strikers, whatever. But those positions need to be your 90-minute players, particularly for Europe. So it's
Like
a
I
bit of
said, it's going to be fine in the league, but when we get to Europe and you know potentially the latter stages of a cup competition, you're going to want a solid back four, a consistent back four. And I don't think Scales moving to left back, as versatile as he is the option. I'd rather, if we're going to have Tierney come off, put someone in there that's either played at left back during the preseason in Inamur, or start to build up Mitchell Frame and bring him in and get him used to that whole cycle of being that left back, a natural left back coming in at that position instead of a bit of a makeshift versatile one. So it's perplexing, and I don't know what's going on there. And I really hope we see him at least in this match day squad for the upcoming fixture against Falkirk.
the thing is, like, so we're talking about Inamura, but then you're also talking about Trusty, right? And I was talking about Johnny Kenny earlier about how well he did in preseason as well. Those three I was really impressed with in preseason. And the thing with Trusty being one of the better performers, but then being on the bench, we've discussed that why Scales are starting because he's more physical, wins the battle, that side of it, right? But the whole Inamura thing confuses me, and this is what I put in a group chat on me, and I said, I'm not sure what's going on with the Inamura thing. Is it injuries in the back line? Is it that our coaching staff don't rate him? Or is it Brendan playing games to send a message to the board to say this player's not good enough? It's not what I need. I need better. Because it could be any of those three things. And when you have a look at some of the comments here as well, like Smell the Glove saying Inamura, I won't see him, or Osmond again, another Liam Shaw. Osmond will be out on loan. They're already discussing that. But then GG saying, looks like Brendan Rodgers is making a point to the board with these player omissions.
Hmm.
And then Square Sausage Mix saying Rodgers keeps having wee digs at the board. And then
Mm.
Simon from Denny is saying probably just Inamura is caught up in transfer politics between what Rodgers has asked for and what the club have signed. So yeah, I think there's a few people thinking it could be that one there. Brendan making a point by playing Dermot Desmond signings. So it's it's just a bit of a doozy really. Like I look at it and go, I think Inamura is good enough, but if he needs to go on loan, then put him on loan within Scotland for a year. Do the same with Osmond. But, you know, don't know how to go about it.
Hmm. Yep, I'm just as perplexed as you are, mate, about it.
Come on, Shane. I was hoping you'd jump in with something amazing there off the back of it.
No, I was caught up with reading one of the comments that came in from Smell the Glove, and yeah, absolutely agree with you, mate. It that preseason is just essentially a precursor, and it's easy to get caught up in preseason hype. But as you said, when the real stuff starts, you see who the manager wants to play. I'd take that point a little bit and go, well, we haven't seen Inamura play outside of preseason, so we don't know if he's going to, in my opinion, stand up to what the rigors of the premiership or even beyond, because we haven't had that opportunity. What we saw in preseason, which is all we can really judge him on, was that he looked relatively solid and at least someone that could fill in at left back where needed. And yeah, we don't have a natural left back player to come in, so you've got to shift to centre half. It's hard not to think there's something under or behind scenes happening here. I don't like to think that way. I'm someone who likes to sort of try and find the rhythm and the proper reason for it without sort of thinking what's going on behind closed doors around those kind of things. But it's hard to avoid it here. It just seems like a really strange omission, and particularly with what Brendan has said about Inamura. At different times, Brendan's praised Inamura, and there's been this emphasis of, I'm trying to decide what position he would play best in. Well, we're not seeing it because you're not picking him in the squad. So I don't know what to make of it.
Yep. I think it's tough, as you're saying there, Shane. I agree with you, but they did well in preseason. You're not going to be able to tell what they're like unless you see them in the league. That's the strange thing for me. Like preseason, yeah, but sometimes players can do well in preseason, and they get that bit of confidence. They may not be playing great, but Look at Ange's first season at the club. He had no other right back options. So who played really well to start off with? The Bricky.
Yep.
And he's basically ever since for those last 5 years now, he's been a serviceable backup for us. So Brendan knows what he's doing, but yeah, I just think it's a bit of an odd situation at the end of the day.
I just want to say very quickly, I get your point. Smell the glove. I do. I understand now. I think maybe I misinterpreted where you were going with your previous comment. I get it now.
Yeah. So Jamison and Pusey signing. What do you reckon, Shane?
You guys touched on this a few weeks ago. I'm not really across this signing. I was sort of trying to play a little bit of catch up just before we came on air, and yeah, I don't really have much to say other than a couple of the qualities that were highlighted were his ability to get on the ball, and he's good with the ball, and I think that kind of ties into Brendan maybe just wanting another centre half that can partner Carter Vickers and be a bit more of a forward passer and actually contribute a bit more than maybe Scales and Trusty can. So that's where I'm sort of leaning on at the moment.
Square sausage, you're on fire tonight, Mick. I'm telling you, went right over Shane's head.
Didn't have to be that high to do that.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it's a good potential signing. If he's going to be coming in, then I'd be thinking that's the end of either Welsh or Dane Murray goes on loan. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, if he's as good as he is, I just wish we had a option to buy. But we'll see how it goes. One thing that I've just seen that while you were talking, Shane, I got a little distracted. Liam's just put up a blog about the whole Maeda thing. So he goes, I woke up this morning to see doing the rounds about a trusted source in Japan alleges Days and Maeda is about to leave Celtic and Taysai Mayashiro is being lined up as his replacement. It's another case of mistranslation, misunderstanding, and in some cases, sensational lying. So there you go. It's not happening. It's a load of crap. It's just some freelance writer over there writing stuff on Twitter. Yep. Good fun. So Liam has come through. Check it out, his Axon blog, if you want to read the whole article. I'm not going to take away clicks from him because he needs to get paid by from his ad revenue. So go over and check it out. Leave a comment telling Liam that we sent you. Happy days.
Our man in Japan, shout out.
Yep. So last thing I wanted to talk about before we go to our final thoughts, Shane, is Johnny Kenny's new contract, signed for 4 more years. Now, I'm trying to figure out something, right? I've big upped Kenny a few times on this pod. All I'm going to say is I hope Johnny Kenny is not on Twitter. That's all I've got to say. Because the kid's done nothing wrong in terms of signing a new contract. He's worked hard, he's developed, and he's got to a point where he deserves to sign his new contract. There was talk he was going to go on loan. He's got this extension. By the end of the window, he might still go out on loan, but we've protected an asset as a club. There was talks that apparently Birmingham come in for him for 500,000, and we told him give us $1 million and he's yours. So the fact of the matter is that we've seen enough to extend him instead of accepting absolute rubbish transfer fee. Great. But the thing I feel bad about is, yeah, the club needs to sign some players. That goes without saying, right? We all know it. But the pile-on and people saying you've read the room wrong, Celtic have absolutely fucked it, and a whole bunch of stuff like that, for me, I think that's a gross overreaction. We all know it has to happen. But can we keep it topical? Like, if the post is purely about Johnny Kenny's new contract, what's that got to do? Johnny Kenny signed a new contract have to do with the club not signing a player? I can understand the frustration. We still need to sign the player. But if Johnny Kenny's on Twitter and he sees that, geez, I'll tell you what, that can screw up a player's head.
Yeah, and look, it always kind of pans out that way a little bit, really. Like a lot of the furor around this isn't always necessarily directed at the specific action, but more around things that haven't happened around it. Yeah, look, pylons are never good, really, when you think about it. It doesn't matter if you really agree with it or not, or you don't think this is the right bit of business. No one's saying that you can't voice your opinion about it or show criticism, but the absolute pile-ons and going in on a player, particularly a young player who has signed an extension for the club that he wants to be at and the club wants him to be at the club. Yeah, as you said, it can be really confronting for anybody to read that. So it would be good for people just to sort of take stock of it a little bit and then say, let's not go in too hard. Let's vent our criticism in the appropriate channels and the appropriate forums about the right topics. Specifically on the signing, though, I like, not sure where I sit on it at the moment. As you said, we're protecting an asset, and during preseason he did show some good signs. I think Brendan rates him. I get the feeling just towards the back end of last season and what I've seen this season that Brendan does think that he has a future in his plans and does want to play him. It's between him and Maeda in terms of, that's, we've talked about Idah and how he hasn't really set the world on fire yet. So it's highly possible Kenny could come in and start instead of Idah, right? I think we've almost got three strikers that could lead the line at the moment. We don't have a clear number one right now, in my opinion. Kenny and Idah could really, either of them could lead the line up against Falkirk, and then Maeda might come on in place of them where need be. But I get the feeling Brendan likes Kenny, and I'm not surprised by this news. And don't be surprised to see him feature a lot more heavily in the next coming weeks.
Couple of things. One, as McLaughlin's saying here, Roger said after the Cork friendly, he wanted Kenny on a long-term contract and out on loan again, so that makes sense. RL77, no one would care if other areas had been filled with first-team ready signings. 100% agree. Okay, not arguing that point. The thing for me is, you said we've got three strikers there, Shane. Yeah. None of them is good enough to be our number one. That's the issue at the moment. Kyogo left. He was our clear number one striker, even though he was struggling in Brendan's system. But who's the number one striker since? Is it Idah? Is it Maeda? Well, Maeda's playing on the wing at the moment, so we can't count him in. So your three striker options are who? Kenny, Idah, Maeda. Maeda we don't know enough about yet. Osman's going to go on loan. So you got two strikers. Last year we were always saying, it's going to be hard to get a young guy in to be that third striker. Hard to sign someone because who's going to want to sign to come in like this time last year to be behind Kyogo and Idah? Johnny Kenny's just signed that contract to play that role for us. So why are we piling on? It makes sense. Like, the thing that frustrated me was the pile on with people G'ing each other up and arguing and all this sort of stuff in the comments. Twitter is a cesspit of toxicity sometimes, and it just went that far. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but I just think it's a little bit silly. But it could be a lot worse, couldn't it, Shane?
Yeah, it could be a lot worse. Could be 4
have a
points
look at
behind
what's
already.
going on over 2 games in the season, and the guys on the Rangers rabble are already calling for Russell Martin to be sacked. People are saying he needs a haircut, all this sort of stuff. That he can't have a vegan coaching him and all this sort of stuff. It's just a pile-on and a half over there. So, yeah, it's just fun and games at the moment.
They were lucky to get a point. That
Oh, yeah.
penalty was a very Ibrox-friendly decision, that's for sure.
It was piss week.
Very
Anyway,
lucky.
good fun. So, yeah, I think what we do is, if Liam was on, we'd be absolutely just tearing strips off the Huns, but we'll leave that one. So what I'm going to do is thank each and every one of you for tuning in again. Please like the podcast, give it a thumbs up, and yeah, we'll go from there. So, Shane, we've got final thought for the pod.
Yeah, quick one for me, a book recommendation. I don't usually do this. It's a book titled Gallagher, The Fall and Rise of Oasis, and it's by PJ Harrison, and it's a little bit of a insight into the dynamics of Oasis and the history from someone who knows the band relatively well, and the brothers in particular. And it's a really good book, really interesting book. So if you're into Oasis and the Gallagher brothers, check it out. Gallagher by PJ Harrison.
I saw that at the Brisbane airport and I was going to buy it. And then the one I picked up, opened it up and pages fell out. And I'm like, yeah, back on the shelf you go. Not buying that. I'll get it later on. So take that on board. Now, I'm going to go on a little tangent. I know Shane loves basketball, right? So I'm going down this for a thing here. Do you watch the women's NBA at all, the WNBA at all, Shane?
Nah, I don't watch it, mate.
Okay, neither do I. But the funniest thing's going on at the moment. This league is like ridiculously woke, and there's all sorts of dramas and stuff. Random people are bringing dildos in and throwing them on the court during games. And players are arcing up and complaining. And the best Twitter response I've seen in a long time was someone put up a picture saying, "Don't do this, don't throw them on the court." And I love the response underneath was, "Why are you playing basketball at the dildo range?" And I just saw that and I pissed myself laughing. It's a pisser. It's funny as. I'll show you that tweet later on, Shane. You'll get it. But yeah, good fun. It is odd. It is strange. It made me chuckle. Can't complain. Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hail, hail.
Ho ho.